It's a better one for them, yeah. They've been playing for so long. Good evening and welcome to a very special day for us here at the Institute of Fitness Ghana. My name is Lexis Bill. I work with Joy FM, and tonight I'll be comparing this event. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Please put your hands together for yourselves. Be patient, and we're excited about it. So like I mentioned earlier, today is a very special day, historic day actually for us. Like you're well aware, we are launching a movement, I call it, that is going to transform the fitness health space here in Ghana. We call it the Institute of Fitness Ghana. Have you ever heard the name? Yes. Have we? Oh no, what is that? Look. Should we sell food first? So have you all heard it? Institute of Fitness Ghana? Yes. Awesome, amazing. Now, I think that it's long overdue for someone who's been passionate about health and fitness for years, gone further to launch a campaign about health and fitness, and even had someone who has a business in fitness. It's important that we have people who know what they're about. And I'm sure it's in that interest that we're all here today. And by the end of the evening, we'll get to understand why it's necessary for the health industry, for the fitness industry, for creating jobs for all of us to have an Institute of Fitness Ghana. So one more time, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's going to be very brief. We're going to share with you just a little bit about it. You get to know what it all entails and how you can be a part of the family as well. But before we even start all, I'd like to invite a few people to our high table to join us, who will be delivering some of our speeches as well. But for starters, help me welcome one of our traditional leaders who is with us, a very august guest for us tonight, Chief Hamza Peregrino Brimah the 8th. A round of applause for him. We also have in our presence Honorable Gertrude Accra, who is Chief Executive of Legon North Municipality. You can give us a wave. Thank you so much. We have as well with us Mr. George Ocansey, who is President of the National Sports for All. Please put your hands together as well. This evening, the Institute of Fitness Ghana will tell us all what plans it has for the industry and how we all can be a part of it. It's not just for some people, it's for the industry, it's for Ghana, it's for all of us. And so first of all, I'll invite the CEO to take a seat. He'll be given his first address now, Mr. Brimah, who is the CEO of the Institute of Fitness Ghana. My brother from South Africa, who's a medical specialist and he focuses on population health, on obesity, is here with us. Dr. Rajesh Brijball is here. Please put your hands together for Dr. Rajesh as well. Our keynote speaker is a professor, and I'll actually tell you a little bit more about him. Yes. But for now, you should know that he's the head of Department of the Physical Education and Sports Studies of the University of Ghana, Professor Reginald Ocansey. We're also delighted to have the Director of the University of Ghana Sports Directorate, Dr. Bello Bitugu, also with us here. And then finally, please help me welcome Caterina Sestili. Now, Caterina is the CEO of a community healthcare organization in Australia. It's called Directorate Australia. She has a master's in social sciences, human services, and anthropology. Round of applause for Caterina as well. So pretty shortly we'll hear from all these August speakers. And like I said, it's going to be very brief. And by the time they're done, we'll understand what the Institute of Fitness is supposed to do and why we are all assembled here. For starters, let me welcome the CEO of the Institute, Brimah, to join me and give us a little bit more information about the Institute. A round of applause for CEO Institute of Fitness Ghana, Mrs. Brimah. Thanks, Lexis.
I just borrowed that.
Mic.
Stand.
Yeah, stand.
Let me see what's good here. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah. Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks, Lexis, for your wonderful introduction. I just want to tell you a little bit about me, and I'll give you a little bit of story about me. I'm a Ghanaian national, born here in Accra. I ended up in United Kingdom in my 20s. Yeah, I left Ghana in my 20s to the United Kingdom, where I had the opportunity to study as an operating department practitioner in anesthetics. I then worked for the NHS for 15 years, and I gained a lot of knowledge and experience in the medical field. I work in all specialties, especially any aspect of anesthetics. I then had the opportunity to move to Australia. I was sponsored by Queensland Health in Queensland, Australia. That's where I specialize in thoracics and burns. That's right. During my course of my career in Australia, I did something called the Institute of Personal Training and Fitness. So I ended up getting myself another qualification in fitness industry. I started working as a fitness instructor, just like everyone here, most of you here. I had two jobs. I was working as a medical, at the same time I'm doing my PT work. It got to a point where my night duty and my on-calls didn't allow me to carry on with that. I gained a lot of knowledge in terms of how to work with people. And you build a relationship with your clients, as you guys know, and you get to know them. And unfortunately, I couldn't pursue that because I have a main job. I came to Ghana in 2017, and I met with very good people here in Ghana, including Lexis. I was involved in Lexis' work in Aguri, and that's where the Institute of Fitness started when we went for this work. Everyone I speak to on that day saying they need a vocational training here in Ghana. So when I went back to Australia, myself and Carl, my wife, we decided what can we bring back to Ghana that it's not going to be complicated. It will be something that is very easy for people to learn, and just to make it easier for you guys. So we managed to partner with an organization called the PTA Global. So we decided, okay, we'll bring it back to Ghana and see how this will work out. But overall, it's been very overwhelming for the people, especially with my family and friends, very welcome with this. But I have one simple message, and my message is for the people in the fitness industry. If you want to be, or you want to take this on, then this is a better path for you. What we are providing for you is actually a better path, because that set you up if you want to be in the fitness industry. So I'll close by saying, may God bless Ghana, that country that I love, and may God bless IFG. Thank you so much.
I think we should be a little generous with the applause. Yeah, thank you very much.
And I do remember that very fateful day when we actually walked up the mountain, walked with Lexis. I know a few of us, as he said that a few of us have been taking part. How many of us have been to the walk? Anybody? Ah, okay. I see a few of us who've been walking up the mountain as well, and it's good. And it's good to see that the fitness lifestyle is actually, should I say, growing. The rate at which people are getting involved in fitness. And we're seeing a lot more fitness trainers. I mean, when you're on Instagram, you're seeing people who are trainers who've been able to carve a niche for themselves. They have been able to train and learn on their own. And for me, it was a little encouraging and worrying at the same time. Encouraging because you see people who really have the passion for it. They're making use of all the available knowledge on the internet and whatnot. But, kid you not, there's a science to this. It's not just as we see it. So it was very important that the professionals come in to provide the right knowledge and the right science behind all that we're seeing. There are people who are helping people lose weight, people who gain strength and whatnot. So what's the science to it? And I think that's what Institute of Fitness Ghana partnered with a very accredited organization globally to put this together. And pretty shortly, you'd get to know more about the organization and this accreditation. But right now, let's really get to understand the population health trends, the role of fitness professionals in the preventative health industry. And who better to do this than our very good friend, who is pro in population health and obesity. He's a medical specialist. He's South African, based in Australia. Please help me welcome Dr. Rajesh Brijball.
Thank you, Lexis, and thank you all for attending and giving me the opportunity to address you tonight. It's a real privilege. It's my first trip to Accra, and the other night I took an Uber, and the Uber driver said, "Is this your first visit?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "What's the best thing about Accra?" And I said, thus far, it's the people. Okay, because in my short stay here, everyone was warm, welcoming, and hospitable. And I humbly thank you for that. Thanks, Lexis, for the intro. As Lexis says, I'm also an African. I was born in South Africa. I was raised in South Africa. I did all my training in South Africa. I trained as a doctor, and then I'm a specialist anesthetist. And like Sam, I also ventured out. I went to the UK. I ended up in Australia. And that's where I actually met Sam. And we've been together for more than a decade, working together. And my speciality that I work in is what we call bariatric anesthesia. Now, bariatric anesthesia is a funny word for basically doing anesthetics for weight loss surgery. And that's the extent of the problem that we have in the Western world, is that obesity is such a major problem that now people are resorting to surgery to try and lose weight. And when I'm talking about weights, I'm talking about weights 200 to 300 kilograms and more. Okay, so I'll get into the talk. So, Ghana, the health of a nation. So when Sam came to me and he said, "I've got this idea," I'm always open to coming and giving back to Africa like he is. I still go to my homeland at least once or twice a year. And when he said, "Let's go to Ghana," I said, "Sam, I'm with you." So we looked at Ghana, and I said, let's look at what type of economy it has. And Ghana is a translational economy. So when we mean a translational economy, it's an economy that's actually growing now. You're growing from a low income to actually a middle income, like many other nations in the world. And as you grow, your disease profile changes. When a country is poor, the problems are usually infections. That's what we call communicable diseases. But as you translate and become more sophisticated, more modern, people have got more money, they're able to treat the infections, they're able to stay away, do proper things. But their disease then translates into what we call non-communicable diseases. And non-communicable diseases, another name is called a lifestyle disease. So there's a couple of facts on non-communicable diseases or lifestyle diseases. It's currently causes 63% of deaths worldwide. And amazingly, 80% of these deaths happen in low to translational economies, so middle income. So what's happened worldwide is, while I'm saying in the US, UK, and in Australia, we have 2/3 of our people that are actually morbidly and overweight. In the translational economies, places like India and China and the Middle East, obesity has just burgeoned. There's more obesity operations now in India, China, and the Middle East than anywhere on the planet. In addition, there's no gender disparity. Males and females face the same challenges of getting fat. Okay. And what they found is that non-communicable diseases are largely preventable, and I'll tell you a little later. But more than actually the individual getting fat, it has a burden on the community. It has a burden on government. When people become fat and they develop complications, they get high blood pressure, diabetes, they get long-term heart problems. That then puts a strain, because then you need pharmaceuticals for hypertension, for diabetes, management of all of that. So while it's a strain on you individually, it becomes a strain on your community and the family. Currently, these last stats in 2016, there's 1.9 billion people who are now classified as being overweight or obese. If you compare that to malnutrition, 800 million people are malnutrition. So now we're looking that obesity has now more than trebled, more than doubled. It's almost 2.5 times that of malnutrition. So it's becoming a bigger problem in the world. So when I say non-communicable diseases or lifestyle diseases, what am I talking about? So examples include heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancers, lung disease. And as I said, they provide a major burden to you as an individual, to your community and your government. Puts pressure on all of the health systems. So what are the causes? Why do we, once we come and get more prosperous, why do we end up with communicable diseases? And it's to do with prosperity, because our lifestyle changes. We become more physically inactive. We start eating a little bit more unhealthily. We start drinking a little bit more. And of course, tobacco has always been a problem. And what happens when you have this unhealthy lifestyle? Well, one is obesity and overweight. You get high blood pressure, diabetes, higher fat levels, higher fat in your blood. And why do we get this? It's because we are all becoming a global society. Soon, what's happening in South Africa is happening in Ghana, is happening in the US, is happening in Australia, is happening in the UK. We are all so connected. With the internet and the way the world is moving, we are all so connected. You can get whatever you want in Ghana that they have in the US, Australia, the UK. The other thing is rapid urbanization. People are now moving from rural to semi-rural, where you used to walk on farms, travel. Now you're going to where the work is. You're living in urban areas, suburban areas, and so you're moving less. So this results in obesity, with poor eating habits and reduced physical activity, because we're moving less. You're driving a car to get to work, to school, you're time pressure, you're time poor. And of course, as a country progresses, you have business interests. You have the big food chains moving in, the global food chains. Now you can get any food chain anywhere in the world, including the most remotest part. Sugary drinks, all of that are a huge burden. And if you don't realize it, it's too late. So the WHO, this has become a major issue now for the World Health Organization. And they said they are looking at means of how we're going to target this. They said with appropriate legislation and proper strategies, you can actually implement change. They have found that physical inactivity is the fourth largest leading risk factor for global death. And they found that they need to now start focusing on increasing physical activity to tackle this growing problem. And I mean growing not just in size, but in population size. So The WHO has said increased physical activity results in a decrease in lifestyle diseases. So what do they say? What do they recommend? They recommend that for children, they should have at least 1 hour of moderate to vigorous physical activity a day. And for us adults, at least 150 minutes of moderate to intense activity per week. So you can do the math and do the sum and see exactly. So almost we should be doing at least 30 to 40 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes every day. So what are the barriers? What are our excuses? Why is it that we are all moving in this way? Well, one is we are all now time poor. We're chasing our work. We're chasing multiple jobs. We are chasing everything to have a so-called better life. Then there's also the issue of lack of knowledge. Well, I want to get fit, but how do I do it? Do I just go running in the park? Do I do this? Do I just go to the gym and do weights? I'm not sure. And then, of course, there's the lack of motivation. I know it, and all of us know it. You get home, you have a heavy day. The gym is the last thing on your mind. You're thinking of having your drink, or you're thinking of having dinner. Probably whatever you want. And then, of course, when you get started, there's also a lack and motivation. Once you reach a certain level, if you don't know how to move to the next level, you just get stuck and you just plateaus out. So what are the solutions? And this is all as a result of what the WHO has found. They found that exercise is a form of physical activity. And what's the definition of physical activity? Physical activity is a structured, planned, repetitive, and purposeful movement, which means that you're taught to do it in a structured way. And the WHO recommends that structured, certified training programs are necessary to actually get people to learn how to move physically and to achieve their goals. And that's, again, as you say, education and training are going to play a primary role. And that's why when we came here, our prime thing was not to address you, but to address all of the ministries that we've come in. Because with appropriate public health changes with government, community, and of course everyone, we can actually institute a program. And hence we've got the Institute of Fitness that we've come with. And our aim, again, is to produce competent trainers to educate Ghanaians on correct techniques of exercise and nutrition. And the outcome is for a healthier, fitter Ghanaian person, less of lifestyle diseases, less burden on the healthcare system, and of course, you can create also a vocational stream of employment, which I'll let my other director get on with. But I say, let's get fit, Ghana. So I'll hand you over to Caterina. Oh, sorry, Lexis.
Oh, please, you guys get up and walk around. I think in summary, all that he presented was to tell us that we are all fat. Because I was looking at the statistics and hearing the statistics and I realized that we all fall in place somehow. I like, yes. Yeah. What's important is that we all need some activity. We all need to exercise. It's important. Someone asked me what my motivation for starting the walk with Lexis is, and I said, I'm hoping that we get to a point where people don't have to exercise to lose weight. You know, we don't have to exercise because the doctor says, hey, why don't you exercise? You know, why don't you exercise? You know, it's critical now. I want us to get to a point where we understand that exercise is a part of us. It has to be a part of our lifestyle. Just like we need food, we need exercise to burn it, isn't it? Absolutely. Yeah, but am I fat?
We'll have to work on that.
We have to work on that.
Running up the mountain.
Anyway, so now let's get to understand what the Institute is going to do exactly and how it's going to operate. Help me welcome Caterina Sestili. Caterina is a CEO of a community healthcare company organization in Australia called Directorate Australia. And she's got a master's in social sciences, human resources management as well. Please put your hands together for her. And she's not fat.
Good evening, honourable guests, distinguished delegates, keynote speakers, supporters, and ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the launch of the Institute of Fitness Ghana and to our theme for tonight, which is towards collaboration and coherence in the wellness and fitness industry in Ghana. Before I deliver my speech, I feel it necessary to extend our gratitude for the many people, both here in Ghana and Australia, who have made our initiative and this launch possible. First and foremost, we must acknowledge and extend our sincere thanks to the Ghana High Commission in Australia, and more specifically to the Deputy High Commissioner for Ghana in Australia, Dr. Vivian Asempapa. Without Dr. Asempapa's support and dedication to our cause, and to her love for her country and people, we would not have been able to engage with the various ministries, and for this we are most grateful. We equally acknowledge and extend our appreciation for the cooperation and collaboration provided by the Minister of Education, Honourable Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and the Ministry Director, Mrs. Wilhelmina Asamoah, and of course for the assistance provided by the Ministry's Protocol Department. We thank the Ministry of Health and the Deputy Minister, Honourable Alexander Aban, for his pledge of support. We are honoured by the presence of Samed Brimah's grandfather, Chief Hamza Peregrino Brimah VIII, the Chief of Yorubas in Ghana. And of course, all of Samed's family, both those that are here tonight and those who have been unable to make it. And also in particular for the wise counsel of Sadia Mould. Over the past 3 weeks during our stay in Accra, we have had the opportunity to meet with the heads of key public institutions, such as Honourable Gertrude Ankram, Chief Executive of Ghana North Municipality, Honourable Mustafa Usif, Executive Director of Ghana National Service, Dr. Fred Kai Amazoa, excuse the pronunciation by the way, Kai Asamoah, Executive Director of the Council for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, Mrs. Mausi Nudikoa Awiti, Executive Director of the National Vocational Training Institute, George O.S. Ansa, President of National Sports for All, Dr. Emmanuel Owusu Ansa, Technical Advisor to the Minister of Youth and Sports, and of course Professor Reginald Ocansey, Head of Department of the Physical Education and Sports Studies of the University of Ghana, and Dr. Bello Bitugu, Director of the University of Ghana Sports Directorate. In actual fact, there are many more, both here tonight and those unable to attend, that we extend our thanks to, including many of you, people working in the industry and wellness industry in Ghana, doing amazing work to build the profile of fitness and wellness services to the people of Ghana. How could we not mention Foster Tum, Nelson Tesebre, Kofi McLean Eli, and Mohammed Ayamga Suleimana. Okay. Okay, with all that being said, I guess I should introduce myself. Some of you know me as Samed Brimah's wife, and this is certainly true. However, I'm here today for more than this great title. My name is Caterina Sestili. I hold a Master's in Social Sciences, specialising, as Lexis said, in Human Services Management and Policy, a graduate diploma in governance, and qualifications in quality management and project management. I have worked extensively across government, NGOs and the private sector, working on large-scale health and social care programs, specifically in child and family services, aged care, disability and mental health. Believe me, I know about community health. Thank you. When I reflected on my speaking points for tonight, I soon decided to leave most of the academic points to our distinguished keynote speakers. Similar to Samed, I am an immigrant of second generation as opposed to first, Italo-Australian in fact. And like most immigrant children, I grew up with parents that instilled in me three fundamental principles. They are the value of maintaining good health, the value of being economically productive, and the value of pursuing a good education. In fact, I remember some of the Italian proverbs I heard as I grew up, and two came into my mind when preparing my speech. The first is universal: look after your health and wealth will follow. The second, your father's art will give you a start, education will make you the master. With all of that, I'll start with Okay, so as Sam had said, we went back to Australia and we started on this great idea of bringing vocational training to Ghana. And one of the first things we thought about quite specifically was what is our vision, what's our mission? And so our vision is really of a healthy and wealthy Ghana through the delivery of best practice health and fitness education, equipment and advocacy. Our mission is to develop competent, industry-equipped professionals who can positively impact population health. We aim to empower the local health and fitness industry to focus on best practice and injury prevention. We aim to elevate industry standards and support government to develop a quality framework. We also aim to encourage employment, investment and entrepreneurship in the industry. And lastly, quite simply, we want to encourage more people to engage in quality health and fitness services and to make Ghana an active nation. So when we started to consider, we wanted to firstly verify our assumptions that there wasn't any vocational training in this particular area. And so to do that, I went back to Australia and started to research many papers, both papers coming out of Ghana and also in sub-Saharan Africa. And what I found is this. So with a population of over 26 million people, Ghana has a 56.6 unemployment rate amongst the youth population. Technical and vocational education and training, which I'll call TVET, is a challenge in all African countries, where the enrolment rate in formal TVET programs is 5% or less. African governments and international institutions, in fact, have been paying increasing attention to TVET. It has been one of the 8 priority areas in the African Union's education strategy since 2006. In Africa, TVET remains inadequate, fragmented and underfunded. There are simply not enough TVET programs to absorb the many young people who have either dropped out of school or finished school. And of course, one consequence of that is the alarming unemployment rate. So why vocational training? Well, vocational training is aimed at the general population and has the potential for greater reach and deeper market penetration. Vocational programs are career-focused. They allow students to concentrate on practical skills with ease of entry into the workforce without completing an entire degree. Lastly, what I found in my research was that Ghana urgently needs to form a local skilled workforce to build capacity and infrastructure, including a healthy population, an efficient public transport system, affordable and safe housing, and reliable energy supply. I quite possibly am not telling you anything new, but it certainly was instrumental for us to understand why we think vocational training is the best market for delivery of this training. So then we started to think about, well, how do we reach that market? What's the best way to deliver this information and this certification? So I did more research, of course, and I found that there's a rapid growth of the e-learning market in Africa, despite some of the challenges which I know exist as well with internet access and data. So Africa, in fact, has the fastest growth e-learning market in the world. Why? Well, part of it is due to sheer need. Only about 6% of young people in sub-Saharan Africa are enrolled in higher education institutions. Traditional campuses, while still popular, are less accessible to many potential students. Fiber optic connectivity is allowing Africa to blossom, as access to internet is allowing more students to participate in learning opportunities. So the beauty of e-learning, students can learn from anywhere, anytime. All they need, if they don't have a computer, is a smartphone. So students without a computer, but with the availability of a smartphone, means that they can access education. It's possible for everyone, including mature age people and people employed as well. So why did we choose PTA Global? I may not have mentioned, but we then started to research. In fact, we went right across from Australia to the US to the UK. We had a look at a lot of training packages, all of equal quality, all meeting what we think are the sort of global standard in certification for fitness professionals. However, we decided on PTA Global, a company based in the US, And the reason for that is that PTA Global is currently the world's largest online education platform for fitness and wellness professionals. PTA Global have a similar model. They partner with international providers who use the personal trainer course content in conjunction with any additional content to meet the specific country and or territory accreditation requirements. So the certification is now delivered in the US, Australia, UK, Middle East, India, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, Malaysia, and of course now Ghana and Nigeria. So you are about to watch a video about the course. We want you to understand the curriculum. And you'll hear from Dr. Kevin Steele, who is president of PTA Global and PTA on the Net. Amongst other things, Dr. Steele has worked as a physician specialising in preventative executive healthcare programs for corporations throughout the United States. Dr. Steele was recruited by the Health and Tennis Corporation of America to be Director of Education, Research and Member Services, where he managed the fitness department and launched the first national platform for personal training. By the way, Dr. Steele is also one of the lecturers on our course.
Can kindly give us a few seconds as we try to set up the audio for the video.
My name is Dr. Kevin Steele. I'm the president of the Sports and Fitness Professional Resource Center, which is the parent company of PTA Global. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you how we are very different from other major certification organizations in the world today. First, our personal training certification and all of our education has been developed by professionals with a great deal of time and practical experience in the fitness industry, plus many of them have advanced academic degrees. All of our science is current and evidence-based. Our premise for development was, and still is, dictated by the health and needs of the general population, and more specifically, the fitness industry. We believe that a strong scientific foundation is absolutely essential for all fitness professionals to have. This is why PTA Global provides all of our students with the fundamental understanding of how the human body functions on various levels, the ability to identify its major structural components, and how the body adapts to and performs with the stress of exercise. In our science section, we introduce and provide an overview of all the systems of the body. We then take students through a detailed modules covering the cardiorespiratory system, the muscular system, the skeletal system, the nervous system, the digestive system, the endocrine system, and the energy systems, which also includes some basic exercise physiology. Our movement system module addresses functional anatomy, proper posture, and biomechanics. Once students successfully complete the science modules, they progress to our screening and programming portion of the curriculum. In these modules, students learn how to efficiently provide fitness assessments and tests for all types of people. We teach that safety is their top priority. Based upon an extensive series of questions and practical examples, students understand that the majority of injuries can be avoided. They learn fundamental programming concepts and comprehensive program design model. The next series of modules address flexibility, mobility training, core training, reactive agility, quickness and speed training, cardiovascular and energy system development programming, and additional programming considerations. Next, our series of modules addressing special populations. In this section of the curriculum, students learn how to work with pregnant women, older adults, children, overweight people, and people with chronic conditions or diseases. They learn the fundamental issues associated with each of these segments of the population and special concerns and considerations necessary for designing and managing successful programs for them. Our curriculum also includes modules discussing body composition and the various methodologies to assess it, and the fundamentals of nutrition. In the nutrition section, we address the benefits of proper nutrition, describe the macronutrients and their functions, identify key micronutrients and their basics, discuss supplementation, and provide information so that the students understand the link between nutrition and exercise. In other sections of PTA Global Personal Training Certification are the movement system, which consists of modules covering communication, changing behavior, the interview, and motivating clients. We also have a series of modules that specifically address the business of personal training and what it takes to be successful. In addition to emphasizing the practical application of the sciences, another major point of differentiation between PTA Global and all other certification organizations is our focus on behavior change. A trainer can have a very high level of education and many years of experience, but if he or she can't ultimately change the client's behavior, then that client will eventually fall back into their previous undesirable habits. We teach trainers the basics of neurophysiology and behavioral psychology so that they have a fundamental understanding of the structure and conceptual framework of human behavior. Our platform and learning strategy teaches a trainer to physically match and emotionally attach movement with each of their clients so that they can train the human being, not just the human body. Thus, providing experience each time they meet with their clients, not just an exercise session. We have taken a great deal of time developing PTA Global's courses, especially the personal training certification. Each of the modules are gated and require passing the quiz prior to advancing to the next one. All of our education incorporates evidence-based research, a delivery system to address the multiple learning styles and interests of our students, and the tools to successfully complete the certification courses. In summary, where PTA Global is very different than all other certification organizations is that we provide a holistic educational curriculum that gives the trainers and fitness professionals the tools to elicit positive behavior changes in their clients while executing the skills necessary to build and maintain a successful long-term business. Hello, my name is Dr. Kevin Steele. I'm the president of Sports and Fitness Professional League.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little bit more information about the curriculum. I just wanted to say one more thing about the course itself, and I guess some of the benefits for doing this course for people here in Ghana. So firstly, there's an easy online registration process that gives somebody, if you sign up, you will have instant access to all of the educational course content. There are 10 modules, 30 sections, and each section has a series of video lectures. There are over 30 downloadable forms for quickly building your clientele, unlimited access to hundreds of pre-made programs, a downloadable manual and study guide with interactive learning activities, downloadable notes pages for all the slides and video content, and then online access to the practice exam with unlimited attempts prior to taking the final exam. One more thing, we want every individual wishing to take the exam or before they take the exam to have completed a CPR or cardiopulmonary respiratory certification and an AED, I'll try and say it, an automated electronic defibrillator, I know what it looks like, certification, which must include a practical assessment to ensure competency. And you probably know this story better than I do, but apparently you've had a previous vice president that unfortunately passed away in a gym. And some of us have heard that story and thought about whether the people working in the gym, if they had or if they were CPR certified, whether he may have had a better chance at survival. That's all speculation, of course, but we know that in Australia and in other Western countries or many countries around the world, fitness trainers have to have a current CPR certification to be able to practice, and we think that's a really good standard to keep. So I'm trying not to keep you too much longer, but I do want to talk about why we chose the health and wellness industry, and maybe something about employment opportunities maybe now and into the future. So when I looked at the research in 2018, for instance, despite all the hype about digital and AI, or artificial intelligence, which is there's definitely a lot of hype to be said about that, the health industry still dominates as the biggest industry in the world, and that includes total revenue and total numbers of businesses around the world. The health industry booked last year a combined $36.3 billion in revenue. Then when I looked at the health and fitness industry combined, I saw that there an estimated global value of $3.7 trillion and double-digit annual growth. That's in the whole world, or globally, since 2010. In fact, it's one of the world's largest and fastest growing industries today. So why? Why this unprecedented growth? Well, Dr. Brijball certainly pointed out the first one, the rise of what we call lifestyle-related illnesses, which is not only obesity actually, but it's a good one to focus on, but cancer, high blood pressure, stress. Stress, of course, creates many illnesses, and that can even be for skinny people. So the other thing is social media's influence, and I know for a fact that there are many of you sitting here tonight that have a very large social media presence, and you are using social media to grow your businesses and to have greater reach. So once upon a time you might have had a shop front, now you can access customers all over the world if you want to through social media, and that's a great thing. So also we're becoming increasingly health conscious, and Dr. Brijball mentioned our increasing affluence. Well, with affluence comes the desire to look good and feel good. So that's a good thing though. And the last one is the shift in attitudes toward healthcare. So we're moving away from curative, focus on curative. We want preventative. We want to prevent. So if you're like me, I've had, and I can vouch that many of you would have had family members who may have passed away or may be quite ill with chronic illnesses. I know that I have many in my family. And I know from the research that if they had had, and I'm not talking about going to the gym every day and becoming a bodybuilder, I'm talking about just having a daily program of some sort of form of fitness and better nutrition, they may have survived or may not have gotten ill in the first place. So, okay, so what about investment? Investors are beginning to take a keen interest in the potential of fitness chains, fitness products, and associated services in Africa. South Africa, as an example, provides an insight into the potential. 61% of the South African population is overweight. Virgin Active's chain of gyms captured this phenomenon and have taken the lion's share of the market. Reports released by the African Development Bank indicate that Africa's middle class has grown into a significant consumer pool. The current size of the continent's middle class is over 350 million people. Experts predict that fitness, nutrition, equipment, and nutrition supplements will deliver new investment opportunities in Africa. Okay, so what about the types of careers? So we're talking about personal trainers a lot, but what's happened globally is that a whole lot of new careers have come out of this interest in fitness and wellness. So we know that in developed markets like North America and Europe, the fitness industry makes over 30 billion every year. It's an industry that is widely regarded as recession-proof and popular in countries with a large middle class. I've said that already. So earning a certified personal trainer course certification can open the door to new fitness paths in nutrition, conditioning, performance, sports medicine, and more. Just 5 examples of potential career specializations include exercise physiologist, sports nutritionist, group exercise instructor, injury and corrective exercise specialist, and strength and conditioning coach. So just one last slide. Thank you for staying with me with all of those statistics and facts. So what's the Institute's roadmap? Today's the launch. In the next 6 months to 12 months, we really want to secure some training venues in Accra, and we have some discussions underway to do that. We also want to start expanding out into other regions of Ghana. For students without a computer or stable internet access, the Institute will provide access to computer labs and internet access. We will have a full suite of ongoing professional development courses in areas such as rehabilitation, nutrition, and working with specific populations. We also hope to work with government and industry to achieve national accreditation. We would like to develop an industry-recognised national register of exercise professionals in Ghana to recognise the qualifications and expertise level of fitness professionals. So what that looks like, we would like it modelled on the Australian framework, if possible, where a fitness professional who is on the National Register of Exercise Professionals signifies that they have completed a nationally recognised fitness qualification, they hold a current cardiopulmonary resuscitation certification, and they comply with code of ethics and conduct. So once again, thank you for being patient with all of that information. I'll pass it back to Lexis.
Thank you so much, Caterina and Sestili. Are we all on the same page? We think it's good? No, I want to hear voices. We think it's good? Yeah, I see a lot of fitness trainers in here. Let me see by hand. What are the fitness trainers in here? The professional fitness trainers. Is the Oma boy going to be pajamas? Okay, I think this is totally going to help the industry, and I like the detail of the training. So it's really a good thing. One more time, please, a round of applause for Caterina. Our next speaker is actually our first keynote speaker, and he's somebody I admire so much because he had been a teacher for over 3 decades. Oh, he deserves a round of applause. Yeah. Listen, it's not an easy thing being a teacher. You know, let me tell you a story. So after senior high school, back in the day, if you remember, you'd have to wait for 1 year before your results come, right? Oh, you didn't wait? Yeah. You have to wait for 1 year before your results come, right? And within that 1 year, what did you do? You have to find some job, right? What did you do? Teach, right? Did you also teach? Yeah, I did. I mean, I had to wait 1 year, so I decided to find a primary school in my neighborhood to teach, thinking that I could be a good teacher. One class, 4 students made me realize that it is not my field. So one time I get into the class and I wrote on the board, flowering plants. So class, today we are come to talk about flowers, and I'm like, okay, give me examples of flowers. And everybody raises their hand, and there's this boy who never talks in class. First person to raise his hand, I was like, hey. So I call him, Philip, okay, example of a flower. The boy gets up and says, bougainvillea. And I'm surprised because it's a flower, right? Sure. Correct flower. I said, oh, a round of applause. Hey, Philip. They clap for him. So I turned to write Bougainville. I wrote B. And I forgot the spelling. So I turned my head and said, aha, Philip, so spell Bougainville. The boy got up slowly. Say, if it's like that, they're like Rose. Look, till today I can't spell that way. So please, a round of applause for our next speaker. He became Professor Emeritus after 3 decades of active service as teacher, educator, and physical activity and sport researcher. He retired in 2007 from the College of Brijball State University in New York, University of New York, USA. He's a member of the Society of Health and Physical Educators, SHAPE, a member of the American College of Sports Medicine, ACSM, USA, founder of the Ghana Physical Education and Sport Think Tank, Active Healthy Kids Alliance, Ghana Alliance, and Active Living and Wellness Alliance Group in Ghana. Now, in his early years in Ghana, so he played on various field hockey teams and whatnot. He's a sportsman. He's a prolific researcher and has published several articles in prestigious and quality journals in areas such as inclusive physical activity for fitness for all persons. So now you understand why he's one of our keynote speakers, and he will be speaking on promoting physical activity and wellness in Ghana. Please help me welcome Professor Reginald Ocansey.
Thank you very much. And where's my slide? Yeah, thank you very much, Lexis, for giving me that wonderful introduction. Teaching is fun, and I love it. And all of us here are teachers, you know, because we deal with individuals and we try to change their behaviors or modify their behaviors, and for us within the field of physical activity and exercise. I think we've been sitting down for quite some time now. And I believe we do ourselves good if we just stand up a little bit, if you can. If you cannot, you may still continue to sit, but if you can, please get on your feet and just move around and maybe move your knees up and down just to ease up. And I think we are all going to have a ride with Lexis Bill, and I will be the driver. Please, you can sit. I will be the driver, or I will be in the driver's seat to take you through memory lane of physical activity, sports and wellness in Ghana, where we have been and where we are headed. So you know that after building capacity through the training, you'll be able to help in the promotion of physical activity and wellness in the country. So, my topic is promoting physical activity for fitness and wellness. I've been told to talk for only 15 minutes, and I hope I'm going to be within the limit. But if we should go further, bear with me, because the journey is interesting. Getting back into memory lane cannot be that difficult to do, but fun to go through. Pushing the right buttons. Okay, so these are some of the steps that I'm going to walk you through. Memory lane. It appears to be so plenty, but they are all interconnected in such ways as to make sense and to make the drive very easy and fun. Bridge has talked about the effects of physical inactivity, and it's true that we are in transition. If you look on the far side, you see how active we have been through evolution, where you have the two anchors. You see we are really moving and moving uprightly. Somehow something happened to our lifestyles, and so you see what we have: pot bellies with Coca-Cola, Fanta, not to discriminate against any brand, but those kinds of things that we put in, that we buy from the market, can push us to that last end. So we are in a transition, both physical activity transition as well as nutrition transition. And if we have people who are capable and have the knowledge and skills to be able to influence lives, I think we will be able to reverse this type of lifestyles. So training of fitness trainers to promote physical activity, sports and wellness in Ghana is a good thing. And I think we need to applaud our host, who have explained to us what the Institute is all about. And we haven't embraced it, to move along with it, to empower ourselves so we can in turn promote physical activity, sports and wellness in the nation. Now, this is a global focus, calling for action. And I think Bridge has talked about quite a number of them, the WHO and things, so I'm not going to bother you very much with that. We go on to some of the things that in Ghana and globally we have been doing to promote physical activity. And that is to study the behaviors of children and youth in physical activity settings. So these are some of the milestones that we have gone through. So for example, 2005, we had the creation of the writing of report cards on physical activity. And there are other dates as well. Now, what I'm going to be focusing on is what Ghana has been able to do by joining the Active Healthy Kids Global Alliance, which, for the milestones that you have on the public-facing actions, is what I'm going to be emphasizing on. So we go to the next slide. Now, the development of the report cards on physical activity for children and youth goes through some brief methodology, not too sophisticated, using expert opinions, available literature, documentation, practices, to come up with some grades for specific behaviors that describes either increases in physical activity levels or decreases in physical activity levels. So for us in Ghana, we have joined the Active Healthy Kids Global Alliance for 6 years. Our first participation is in 2014, and if you see the global metrics, we have overall physical activity levels that has been pretty steady, which means that less and less children and youth in the country are getting any meaningful physical activity, either in school or within communities. The data we gathered for 2018 showed very slight increment in physical activity levels, which is encouraging. But if you look at the other indicators, organized sports participation, we have steadily stayed at C, which means that about 50% of Ghanaian children and youth are very active participating in organized sports. When it comes to active play, I think our grades should have higher. Now, 2014, we did not score. The INC there means incomplete. We did not score because we couldn't get adequate data for scoring. But in 2016, we did. And 80% and above were engaged in active play. Active play simply implies spontaneous actions. Unpaid, to getting out to chase, race. Now those kinds of activities that kids engage in spontaneously, we do very well. Now active transportation is movement of the body, not using a motorized means. So how many people are riding bicycles? How many people are walking? How many people are jogging? We are not doing too well, but I think having over 50% of children and youth engaged in active transport, it's a good thing. Now, this kind of knowledge is really critical for us as fitness trainers. We will be able to study the environment and give proper prescriptions for children and youth as well as adults in order to reduce sedentary behavior and the other lifestyle diseases that we've been talking about. So sedentary behavior has been steady. Physical fitness, we have not been able to get the exact data, and I believe with NASFAG and the new breed of physical trainers who are coming through, we should be able to gather the necessary data in order to say, now, children, youth, adults in Ghana are at this fitness level. And we should be able to develop fitness norms in order to show those. To the extent to which families have influenced their peers, their children, to engage in physical activity is not clear. But if we know that family influence is a major component for the development of fitness, then as we train our clients, we should engage their families, we should engage their peers in order to increase their physical activity levels as well. School infrastructure policies and programs, there are very big question marks on that. And for those of you who are from the Ministry of Education, I think we have to think through the programs we run in our schools very well in order to provide opportunities for students to engage in higher levels of physical activity. As I speak, the number of periods for physical activity or physical education experiences have rather decreased instead of increasing with the new curriculum. Now, this is not a critique on the Ministry of Education, but I think if we want a healthy nation, we must look at providing the opportunities so that individuals in schools can engage in physical activity. And to the last indicator, you see community and environment, which includes the school as well. We have not done very well. Again, there are so many stakeholders who need to be called to play and called to the action so that we will be able to create this environment that will foster movement for children, youth, and adults. And I'm sure that with the Institute coming through, we should be able to gather the pieces of data that will help us describe our fitness level very well. Now, if you look at Ghana and the other countries who participate in the global matrices, and global metrics is just the comparison of the grades across participating countries. So overall physical activity, we have seen already, we're ranking D+. But we are not different from Nigeria, for example. Nigeria is CCC, just a little below. However, if you look at Colombia, Colombia is also DCC, but we have moved from DD to D+. We can do better. What do these grades mean? Now, A grade means we are succeeding 80% or more based on expert judgments. 60 to 79%, a B, we are succeeding with well over half of the children and youth. And then it goes on and on. But D, where we are succeeding with less than half of some children and youth, that is the 20 to 30%. With training, we'll be able to shoot that up. So let's look at what the report card actually says. If we should continue to develop report cards in order to describe physical activity levels of children, youth, and adults, we can use it for several purposes. For promotional purposes, for which this presentation is about. So we're looking at the public awareness mechanism and call to action through a nationwide media advocacy strategy. And that is what we're doing now with the help of Joy FM and writing on Lexis Bill's Prime Time. Is that prime time or? That's right. An accountability index for all of us. A surveillance synthesis mechanism. An advocacy tool for physical activity leaders and organizations. A policy driver. A process for identifying research and surveillance needs. A challenge to other countries and jurisdictions to implement similar processes to allow comparison and facilitate improvements. Now, let us look at some of the key messages here. It is clear from the data that I have shown that many children and youth are not active enough. BRICS has attested to that with the WHO recommendations and findings. Children spend too much time being sedentary, just as we do too. Most of us work in offices and we sit for long hours. But if you are lucky like me to have something that beeps and tells you, hey, you have to get up and walk, then every hour or so, you'll be prompted to get up and do something. And you need to do so. These gadgets are available for all of us. But you can also tell yourself in the office, hey, I need to send this paper or letter to the next office. Then I go cling, cling, cling. Somebody comes and picks it. You are selling your physical activity opportunity to that individual. Why don't you take it yourself and send it over there? And let your record show that you have had 5 steps and continue to amount the steps during the day. So we also can see that from the data, kids, children and youth, as well as adults in Ghana have low levels of physical fitness. And that is what the purpose of this institute is all about. Now, there is... Okay, so If you are interested in reading about the Active Healthy Kids Global Alliance report cards, this is the link you can go to. You can find all the country data for your own information. Now, I also want to introduce to you the leaders of the team for Ghana. There are a few other people that you might know. But from the promotional point, locally, we do have some organizations that do advocate physical activity, and one is the Ghana Physical Activity Network, which is organized and managed by Mr. Doku Nate. I don't know if Nate is here, but I think Nate is one of your buddies in the physical activity movement. So the mission of this Ghana Physical Activity Network is to establish open communication links between most, if not all, physical activity centers, advocates, practitioners, policymakers, and intersectoral partners in the country. And it has all these functions of membership registration, coordination, conducting conferences and seminars for fitness trainers like you. And I believe there are some alumni here who have benefited from the GPAN conferences and workshops. The Ghana Physical Education and Sports Think Tank and Exercise is Medicine Ghana. These are two advocacy groups that are related to the Global Exercise is Medicine group. Advocates teaching physical activity in physical education by placing physical activity at the center of curriculum development in ways to optimize participation, and then also conducts conferences in physical activity, health, and wellness. And some of you, again, have been beneficiaries of those conferences that started way back in 2007. There are also publication outlets that promote physical activity, and there's a Ghana Physical Education and Sports Journal. Now, this has been out for some time because of patronage and support, but I think we can rekindle in as much as we have experts coming through, getting their certifications and doing their case studies and having an outlet to publish and getting it out there for individuals to read. There are more promotional things that we can talk about. The Ghana Education Service Physical Education and Sports Implementation Guidelines have also been developed, waiting for implementation. It's been developed since 2010. We are now in 2019. Whatever has happened to it and why, 2012, and why it's not being implemented now is something that perhaps the Ministry of Education or the Ghana Education Service will be able to tell us. There has also been the National Policy for the Prevention and Control of Chronic Diseases, the policy which was written in 2012 and has specific guidelines and recommendations for physical activity. How that is being utilized is also uncertain and unclear. In 2013, the Ministry of Health set up the Diet and Health Life Group to investigate into the fats, oils, sugar, salt, and the group came up with a very laudable report. Since 2013, that report has never surfaced. But I tell you, that report had also recommendations and guidelines for physical activity in the country. But that never came through. I hope Lexis Bill, Joy News, Joy FM, and the other stations are going to pick up on and ask questions. why we have all these policies that has relevance for physical activity, but they are never implemented. These three are crucial. When you are trained and you are certified, you'll be working with a school. But if there is no physical activity policy in place, what are you going to do? So we need to look at that aspect. Now, exercise medicine Ghana has been around with us since 2005 when regenerative health and nutrition policies were sorted out. Now, the regenerative health and nutrition policy had 5 pillars, of which exercise medicine is one component. And so GPSTT, piggybacking on the exercise medicine component, came up with all the laudable platforms for knowledge dissemination, practices, and to empower individuals to do good physical activity programming, both within the communities and in schools. So 2009, the concept of exercise medicine in Ghana is formed. Then comes July 2010, the first GPSTT International Conference was organized here at Alisa. And notable individuals were given Distinguished Persons Award for their contributions to physical activity and exercise in the country. Then followed in 2011, February, a book launch. 2011, April, the Working Group of Exercise Medicine in Ghana was formed by the Ministry of Health. And then in the same year, June 2011, the first Ghana appearance at ACSM, the American College of Sports Medicine, sponsored by the Ministry of Health. And in fact, the attendees came back to attend the GPSTT conference to share knowledge from that conference. That is the ACSM Exercise Medicine Conference. And since then, Nabita College has also been involved in the training of gymnasium experts. And the Pivot Gym, perhaps, is very popular to some of you, where the training took place. Somehow, some way, lack of support and enthusiasm, the program dwindled. But I think with the Fitness Ghana Institute, we are going to rekindle the training movement in order to get more qualified personal trainers. So the milestone goes on and on and on. 2012, myself and Dr. Na, the director of the medical school at Nabita, went into the churches, started going into the churches, preaching the gospel of physical activity, getting fit, exercise, why the need to exercise. You can do same. If you're a pastor here, you can use the notion of movement to empower your congregation. If they have to dance, let them dance and dance vigorously. What do they get? They'll be panting a little bit, but they'll be getting the benefits. Their cardiorespiratory benefits will be coming through. You don't just have to go to the gymnasium in order to get those benefits. You can get it from various physical activity settings. So what is it that we are lagging here? We have all come to the conclusion that training experts is a good thing to do. But what is lagging seriously is a National Physical Activity Control Desk. The question is, where should that desk be? Ministry of Health? Ministry of Tourism? Where should that desk be? I believe if we do have a desk, then we have control. The institute can liaise and link very tightly with the desk. My suggestion is that this should be a national effort to be backed by government. It cannot sit either in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, Tourism, Health, Town and Country Planning. Someone may ask, why all these? Because they all have some responsibility for the promotion of physical activity in the broader sense in the country. Thank you very much.